Sorry, start that back again.
Wine. 2 seconds, let me just clap.
So Gordon found a fucking lentil or something in his bed.
A fucking lentil?
Is that a lentil? One single lentil.
I am tweeting that from the podcast account with no context. Fuck
A
you.
lentil? You making soup? I mean, you know me, I'm always making pots of soup in my sleep. Okay. Is that a lentil?
Welcome to the Gibberfish Podcast.
Well, we may not have Bin Laden in the audience, but we're here to talk gibberfish, aren't we, Dom?
Yeah, we're talking Gibberfish on this. We're recording on the 4th of July, so happy 4th of July to all you Americans that listen to the podcast, or as we call it here in the UK, Happy Good Riddance Day.
Yeah. I'm enjoying some Buffalo Trace to celebrate the occasion, American finest bourbon. And the Bin Laden joke was a reference to the fact that, we're now at day like 100 of quarantine here in the UK, and it's getting a little bit weird. I think we've talked about this before, but like the live events are really struggling. Like you've got live footballers coming back with closed doors, so they're trying to keep the atmosphere there because it's a live event. Like it needs a certain ambience, and they're pumping in generic crowd noise from like FIFA games into football stadiums. But they also did a weird thing where they started basically letting you buy what's called a crowdie, which is a stand-in that goes in place. So you submit a photo, they print it out and stick it on like a cardboard cutout, and that becomes something in the stands. Some fucking hero put Bin Laden's face in the Leeds audience.
Jesus. No one stopped to think, let's check this. Did no one stop to think, let's double check?
I wonder if someone checked it and said, you know what, it's kind of funny. Let's just let it slide through. Like it's just two of the lads are on the late shift. They've got to get these all printed before 3 a.m. so they can get labelled up and put out in the stands. And they say, you know what, fuck it, not my problem.
It's how funny it would be if it was just two interns that just got the job and they were just like, we don't want to be fired. We don't want to rock the boat. We're just going to get the job done.
Dude, we got a job in COVID. Take the money and run. And I think I retweeted it saying I can't wait to play Spot the Hitler for the next few games.
Cut to Murrayfield Stadium and there's Mussolinis and shit everywhere.
Because that's the thing is like everyone knows the big guys, but who really knows what Goebbels looks like? Who really knows the C tier Nazis or like the real Ugandan like warlords, the guys that weren't quite president, but the guys who didn't quite make it all the way, but still did horrific shit. I reckon you can slide a few of those in there and no one notice.
Yeah, you probably got away with it.
You crackled there and just disappeared.
I mean, if you're putting, pictures of Goebbels and stuff in there, get some Pol Pot in there. Pretty sure no one knows what that guy looks like.
Oh yeah, there's an entire continent of dictators that no one ever noticed.
Yes.
So I mean, like, how are you doing now? We're now 100 days into quarantine. That was like last week. How are you getting on, man?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, man. I luckily for me, I went through a phase of whenever I finished uni, because I'd been in uni for fucking 8 hours. I'd get in there about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would leave at say 5 o'clock at night or something. And when I was on my way home, I would always stop by FOP, and I would buy some Blu-rays and stuff, just stuff that I had on DVD that I wanted to watch again in better quality. So I have accrued a stack of Blu-rays that I've just had to watch through. So I'm currently watching Cowboy Bebop on Blu-ray.
Oh, very
always
nice.
Always good to go back and revisit that. But yeah, I just no offense, but I hate answering this question. I fucking hate answering this question because I feel like I've answered it to so many people
That's
over
one thing
the
I think.
past couple of weeks.
That's one thing that about the Scottish temperament we have to our advantage. We will look at a really shitty situation and just say, shrug our shoulders and say, it is what it is. Let's just get on with it, you know. And yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm really starting to appreciate the fact that I still have an like a job I need to go to every day.
Yeah.
Like I leave the house and I talking to relatives and stuff because we're starting to open up a little bit, so I get to go and talk to parents like face to face. Like you can always text and talk, call each other, and you can say, "Oh, it's fine," or "Oh, it's bad," and you get some sense of how they're doing, but it's not the same as seeing them sitting across the like table or across like the garden from you.
Oh yeah.
And you realize my parents and that are so bored. Like my dad is working a couple days a week, just because of his job. But beyond that, no other relatives of mine are working that I know of, except from a few who are working from home. And most of them are prepping for like the next job when they go back, if they're doing anything at all. And it's just, you can see a genuine, legitimate boredom building up in them, and it's quite a shame. But I'm really kind of glad that I have a job that needs me to go to a building every day and get to leave the house.
Yeah, and yeah, it's. See, I feel like I've been quite lucky because I've not been bored during lockdown. I've always had shit to do. I apologise that I keep fucking yawning through this. my day got pretty exhausting because, usual shit. Wake up, take the dogs out, but then because you're allowed to mingle with other households now, my niece dropped by and she was happy, because she's not had a hug from Uncle Dom in fucking ages. So I spent most of the day with a child backpack who just wouldn't leave me alone. She's let's do this, let's play fucking Mario Kart and stuff. So I just had between the hours of 1 and 5 just pretty exhausting day.
Yeah. You picked up a part-time job there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like you've lost the stamina for it as well, because there gets to the point where like you have the stamina to deal with a child that just isn't there anymore. And then all of a sudden it's like the kid shows back up and you're like, oh, how did I stand you for more than 20 minutes?
It's also because I'm not training anymore, because they're talking about you can train for rugby, because I have the return to rugby roadmap thing. It got sent, if you're registered with SRU, it gets sent out to you. And it's like, we're in phase 3 or something just now, which is no contact, no organised games, but you can get together and train in groups as small as 8. So, and that's touch rugby only, but it's not excessive touch rugby. It's literally just on the shoulders. Like you can't bear hug or tackle or anything like that. And my team's doing it in Edinburgh, so I'm not going to be able to train until training comes back officially, which is looking like August, September time.
Right. Can you do
so
me a favor?
No training.
My
stamina and fitness levels have just dropped. I have almost no energy.
I was going to say, could you actually forward that to me? I'd love to see what the return to rugby would look like, because I'm looking at all the like government general kind of information and data and stuff that comes out. It's interesting to see how there's a difference, and it's becoming more and more prominent in England and the UK, or like England and Scotland. And it's actually quite interesting that we're recording on 4th of July, because about 14 hours ago, pubs opened up. And if you're wondering what time we're recording at 8, and that would mean that pubs opened at 6 in the morning, which everyone said, wait, why 6 in the morning? And that was entirely because Boris Johnson didn't want midnight pub opening parties across England. I'm like, it's going to happen anyway. You just moved it to 6 in the morning. I don't think it's going to pan out the way you think it will, Boris.
Yeah, people will just take the day off of work if they have to go to work and just go to pubs.
Yeah. So I mean, we're staying quite locked down up here in Scotland, and again, because it's just a case of get on with it. We're recording much lower rates, but we have a much lower population, so I'm not that surprised. We're also we're more naturally isolated than they are down in England. There's much bigger cities down there. And yeah, Scotland is playing the role of the kind of older sibling who's just like, guys, calm down, we're getting a little too excited here, we're going to bring this all back and we're going to end up with a second spike.
Just settle down.
Simmer down and stop doing the fucking Sky Bridges plan. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's 60...
I have not seen the Sky Bridges plan. What the fuck is that?
There are 60 countries, including Italy, Spain and Greece, aka the ones who got hit with COVID the most, that you can fly to or from, and you don't have to quarantine if you come back within England.
Huh.
Yeah, that's going to get real fucking risky real fast.
Yeah, that's going to boost the infection rate.
Yeah, and all this while we were having a discussion between England and Scotland as to whether or not Scotland could quarantine you for coming from England. So if you're an English person who decides to just drive up to Scotland, we may ask you to self-quarantine as soon as you cross the Scottish border. To which the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, said, there is no border between England and Scotland. You just raised a lot of legal questions there, Mr. Johnson. I don't think you like you're going to like the answers, and, you know, there's a growing anti-English sentiment, so you might not want to start that shit.
I'd be worried if Boris Johnson could even spell the word legal. That's all I'm going to say.
You'd see his third attempt, you'd be like, oh my god, it's learning.
Why did they have a Q in there? There's no Q in the word legal.
It's actually a silent Q.
everything Boris Johnson says, I want there to be a fact checker behind them just going, we can't enforce that, we can't do that. Give him a blanket and a bottle of juice and go, okay, Tim, go nap. Go sleepy, boys.
Boris, it's time for your bottle.
Falls asleep.
He winds down.
I think somebody just sucking his thumb and just goes, rhubarb's the second wave and Brexit.
Rhubarb, the second wave. Well, we have our first t-shirt, ladies and gentlemen.
Look at Boris Johnson and tell me that's not the kind of shit he says to himself to get himself to go to sleep.
That motherfucker eats rhubarb pie without ice cream. I'm just saying.
I mean, all I'll say is you're a monster if you eat rhubarb pie.
Yeah.
Why would you eat rhubarb crumble when apple and cherry crumble is right there?
There are perfectly acceptable, normal human meals right there, and you chose rhubarb. We had rhubarb plants in the garden when I was young, and it's an acquired taste, that's all I'm going to say. Even if you prepare rhubarb properly and sugar the hell out of it, it's an acquired taste.
Yeah. Weird.
So, I mean, we have a smorgasbord of random topics to talk about, and I don't think there's any neat segues to any of them.
No, there really isn't. They were quite disjointed this week because there's some shit that we have spoken about before that we still want to, keep pushing out there and keep telling people that this is a good thing to do. Like, we want to tell you to stay safe, stay clean, wash your damn hands, wear a fucking mask, wear a fucking mask, wear a fucking mask. And we want to keep promoting the Black Lives Matter, so keep the petitions going, keep the word going, just keep everything going. Don't be performative ally, just be a fucking ally.
Yeah.
All that shit we want to keep going. But other news wise, it's vitriolic, nasty shit that's coming out over the past couple of weeks.
I mean, if we're going to go straight to the core of
games, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we're going to go to vitriolic, nasty shit, I mean, the gaming industry went out, not so much, the gaming industry itself has ground to a halt, as of many productions. I mean, there's still the back catalogue of stuff that people were working on that's coming at a slower pace than we expected. But the actual gaming entertainment industry, that has just gone to shit sideways.
Yeah.
I guess it started about 2 weeks ago when we got there was an initial wave of Me Too allegations that was quite small initially in gaming. But we have a new wave of allegations that came out just a few weeks ago. Biggest person I'd say that was in there was Pro Syndicate, who I kind of liked as a content creator. He wasn't I wouldn't sit and watch hours of his stuff back to back, but if you ever happened to see a vlog and it seemed interesting, it was generally pretty good. Some of his Call of Duty content's pretty good, and obviously he's a bit older now, so it's quite interesting to see somebody who was the hot shit that now just kind of living a life of luxury in a weird way, that he's made his money from his hype, his celebrity, and his fame, and now just continues to be a celebrity in that sense, but working away through the day-to-day. What does the daily life of a top-tier YouTube content creator become nowadays? And he has allegations against him about not using protection and not using agreeing with certain things in sexual scenarios with women, just not doing things he was supposed to do, and then just straight up allegations of sexual assault, really, and it like stuff like that for him and several other content creators all coming out within the space of like a week was just a. It was a. I think that was actually almost like a week after we recorded the last episode. I'm not sure.
So I'm not familiar with the syndicate allegations. I was most of my most of my information comes out of Evo and Mr. Joey Queller.
Yeah, this is the Smash Bros guy, right?
No, Joey. He goes by the name Mr. Wiz, but he's the CEO of Evo, and it came about that in 1992 he basically fed underage children, male children, alcohol, and the promise of tokens for arcade machines to perform some illicit acts.
Shit.
And a lot of people, quite rightly so, namely Yoshinori Ono from Capcom, who's the head of Street Fighter, and Katsuhiro Harada from Tekken, and Ed Boon from NetherRealm said, we don't want to be associated with this guy. We're pulling our support from Evo completely until you get rid of this guy. And even if you have got rid of this guy, we don't want to stick around to find out how far his influence grows. So we are done with Evo for this year.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's the best way to deal with it. Just say, well, if this is the kind of company that you're running, nah, we don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, those are allegations from what 28 years ago, but they still. I mean, there's now a kid walking, or a grown man walking around with some horrific memories of gaming in his head because of one sick fucking pervert. Yeah. I didn't know the evil allegations were that bad because you did text me say there's some bad shit coming about evil, but that might be the worst ones I'd heard about anything.
And it's also led to EVO Online itself being cancelled completely because the two main attractions to EVO Online was Mortal Kombat 11 and Street Fighter. And without their support, they've just went, nah, we can't do it. We've lost too much support. So I think it's going to lead to a complete staff change at EVO headquarters. And I don't really think EVO, as dwindling as it is, can survive a hit this bad.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably try and... I mean, if they've got any sense, the PR side of things will just chalk it up to COVID and saying that there wasn't enough engagement, but they'll try and hide this, the allegations and the lack of support from the gaming side of, like, the gaming producers side of the community. And they'll just try and hide that away in the corner. But that, yeah, if it goes, and that's the reason it goes, I mean, that is a reason to destroy a legacy, really. Yeah. There was
and
something
it's led to so many other people coming out and saying, well, thanks to this, I now can feel comfortable talking about my story. And I think that leads into what you read about the Smash Bros community with more people coming out with their stories and that. So like, I haven't read into the Smash Bros stuff because I washed my hands of the Smash Bros larger community a while ago. Smaller communities, like I know there's still some Smash Bros content that goes on in Scotland. There's some tournaments there. Yeah. If I meet any of those people at a con, I'll happy to sit and chat to them. But the larger Smash community, I've largely washed my hands off.
Yeah, the allegations there were like horrifically similar. That someone was at a party with an underage girl and just kept feeding her drinks throughout the night, and then had sex with her, even though she wasn't interested to begin with. But then you get her drunk and come on, it's just a bit of fun, and then you're all of a sudden a horrific fucking monster, and that was not that long ago. And that happened at I think it was like a post-con party or something like that, or was it a post-tournament party at someone's house. Yeah. And there's a lot of names in the names that I'm not that familiar with, but a lot of gaming, like Smash Bros fighting games, like big personalities that are involved in that one, and they've all had to kind of scramble to assert their involvement or what was actually going on for their perspective or whatever. And it's kind of horrifying to see that, this. I never really thought of gaming as being that safe a space for people to be involved in. There's always going to be shitty people involved, no matter how much you screen people. Once you get to a certain size, a certain community, capacity, you're going to find that there's some shitty people hiding in amongst the the vast majority of good people.
I mean, the way I see it, people go to places like arcades, they go to fighting game tournaments because they think, oh, there's other people who are like me. There's this guy who likes Smash Bros. He's the same as me. So you go in there and you meet like-minded people, and it kind of builds this safe space idea. So I know for a fact,
Even
whenever,
without the idea of like just saying safe space, it just builds a community. The idea that you can find
Yeah,
a peer, find a friend that you may not have known. I mean, I've done that with Warhammer 40k. I did that with a tabletop game that I just played. I just wanted to meet people who also enjoyed that game.
yeah, and you want to go into that place believing that everyone is a good person, and you maybe be a slightly less resistant because you're like, oh, they're just good guys. So you know what, if they're maybe doing something that's a bit weird, it's not a big a deal. But
How can it be that bad? They like what I like because you have a shared common interest.
and it's scumbags like these Smash Bros players that are taking advantage of that, and it's fucking horrible. And it's the reason why I'm quite glad that I don't take part in any of that shit anymore, because I used to actively, I kind of wanted to be in that sort of FGC, but that was never really sure how to get myself into that. And now that I know that's what it's like, I'm staying the fuck away from it. I don't care that these players aren't the FGC as a whole, but
Yeah, the fact that they're in the mix at all really makes you wonder. And I was thinking about this because I was trying to think about. I saw responses to these type of events, these Me Too like allegations, the comments about like racial inequality. Like if you look at anyone if you like someone that's a content creator with a big enough platform, find a statement they've made, something that might be politically charged or something like that. Scroll down a little bit into the comments on any social media platform, and you'll find that there is stuff that you vehemently disagree with. And this actually came up with a guy I'm a big fan of. He's a YouTuber by the name of Super Eye Patch Wolf. I talk about his stuff quite a lot on here because he makes very good video essays on things that he likes, and he shares them with a passion that I find infectious, that I try to emulate when I'm talking about stuff on this podcast. And I have been really impressed by him, like making more and more content, making newer, better videos. And then with all that's been going on with the Black Lives Matter protests, he said, I'm going to set up a charity stream for the Trevor Foundation, which is an LGBT charity here in the UK. And the Black Lives Matter movement will just take all the donations, gather them together in a pot, split it 50-50, push them out to these charities, and then, you know, we as a community will do our part. What he talked about recently on his podcast, Let's Fight a Boss, was that, and he actually mentioned it in his newest video, which was Things I Like Summer of 2020, was that he was amazed to find that there was a backlash to his support of what most people would consider decent charities. Now, there's some argument about like some Black Lives Matter like sub-movements within that community, and that there might be some issues there that people might not agree with politically, and that's fine. But the idea that you would completely give up on a charity that, you know, enhances the lives of black people because of some small disagreements you might have, the fact that that would come up, and especially with the Trevor Foundation, because it's LGBT youth, it is, you know, it is for kids who lose their family because they come out as gay or trans or bisexual, and the family wants nothing to do with them anymore. Like it's a support network for gay kids or like queer kids that you might find anywhere in the world. It could be anyone you know, it could be people you are very close to, and any one of them might need the support of this charity. And the fact that he got pushback from within his community, and he suspects there's a bit of fuckery going on there, and that there might have been like his announcement video might have been put to some like alt-right subboards or something like that. It might have been inflated. The response there might have been a bit inflated. He says that he finds it very frustrating because people are coming after him for his belief in certain charitable organisations. And then I was thinking about why people feel so betrayed when stuff comes up like this. And I think it's because we make such personal connections, because these people, the YouTubers, the communities that we form, have just a few things in common with us, and we attach so much weight to that. So as you're saying, you don't want to be involved with a Smash Bros community because of, you know, darker elements within it, and also just not enjoying the community as a whole. but your initial attachment is because we share a game. We share a common interest, a common language of this game that we all play. And I think that's why when stuff like this comes up, it kind of hurts a little bit more than... I mean, my favorite example of this is Leonardo DiCaprio. I can't name one person who hates Leonardo DiCaprio. We all love him because he's a talented actor, but at the same time, if you found out something horrible about him, it wouldn't feel the same as if your favorite YouTuber did the same horrible thing. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah, it does. I think it's just like you said, when people start watching YouTube, they start getting quite personally attached because they talk about what you like and they talk about it in a way that connects with other people. So when you see something that's against what you think, it immediately strikes you as wrong. If you know what I mean.
yeah, when it feels like you've, my only, it's the wrong word almost. It's too hyperbolic, but betrayal is the only way that you can really think of it. Yeah. Is that we had this shared thing, you and I, and now all of a sudden you believe in thing like we believe in thing X, but all of a sudden you believe in thing Y, and Y is in no way connected to X, and it blows some people's minds, and it does alter people's perspective quite a bit.
Yeah, which is weird because so many YouTubers and stuff that I follow, I don't agree with them on absolutely everything. I just think, right, they make good fighting game videos or they make good, movie breakdown videos or something, but they also happen to be a massive gun nut. I don't look at the whole gun part.
That's such a weird thing for us here in the UK that we just don't get.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm very anti-gun. Guns are the weapons of the enemy.
But they can be your weapon too, for a small, small price, my friend. It's such a fucked up argument. What did you say, sorry?
I said guns are clumsy and stupid. I was trying to remember a Batman quote, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a day, man. I'm ready for a cup of tea and I'll lie down. I'm not gonna lie.
Guns are clumsy and stupid. That's why I stopped using them in the 50s. Batman.
You know, Batman never actually used the gun, even when people said he used the gun.
I don't know. I've seen some comics from the 1950s where he's blasting off with akimbo pistols. It's from like way back. It's like the first 5 issues of Batman or something, and they're like, "Okay, this doesn't work. this is bad. We feel bad." Batman is shooting people while talking about moral superiority. It doesn't quite pan out.
If that's the case, I'm not gonna try and argue with it because I wasn't alive 70 fucking years ago. So.
That's the scary thing. Like, yeah, it's back in the 50s. Remember how that was 50 years ago? Because we're of that age where, like, we are still mentally in the 2000s, and then all of a sudden you go, no, it's 2020, morons, and you're like, oh, that adds 20 years to everything. I may or may not be Googling Batman uses guns to just prove a point.
I mean, you probably did, but I remember actually looking into this, and I couldn't find much to see that he used a gun, with the exception of his grapple gun.
Yeah, he had a grappling gun that was very handy. Especially, I don't want to talk about Batman. So I have something else about Batman later on. I don't want to spoil it for later on.
All right. Okay.
So yeah, like we have the whole thing about our Me Too movement is coming up, and then we also within the same week had Twitch, obviously the streaming platform, had a rival for a while called Mixer, which was backed by Microsoft. Everyone assumed that this would be the big challenger in the ring because Twitch is a monolith, the same way that if you want to talk about online video sharing and online video hosting, you talk about YouTube. There is no real competitor to YouTube. I'm sure there's like something like Dailymotion, I think is still a thing.
Vimeo. I can't see Vimeo or Dailymotion striking back at YouTube.
Yeah, and most people who have a Vimeo have it as a YouTube backup, so in case their YouTube channel gets taken down by the copyright system. That's the only one I really know of. But then Mixer was a possible contender to Twitch. It was a bit shaky. It didn't seem like a great start. But they made a big play. They put in a lot of big bids for content creators on Twitch. They got a few of them to switch over. Biggest one being Ninja. And then you have Shroud coming over, so big FPS gamers. And then all of a sudden, almost out of nowhere, Mixer disappears just like a few weeks ago, leaving a lot of content creators with nowhere to go, which was kind of like, it was a weird implosion to watch because it came out of nowhere, and then there was no support. There was just a message from Mixer, like a literal text message, no like video of like a CEO addressing the community, just saying, "Hey, Mixer's going to shut down in a month. We're joining with Facebook Gaming," which apparently was a thing. And then we are going to, like, if anyone who is a Mixer partner right now wants to move over, they'll automatically become a Facebook Gaming partner. No one gives a shit about your weird platform. So nobody, as far as I'm aware, nobody that I know of has jumped to join Facebook Gaming. Because, I mean, it's a joke platform. I don't think I've ever seen or heard the phrase, "come and watch my stream on Facebook Gaming."
I wasn't aware that Facebook. I'm not surprised that they do, but I wasn't aware in the slightest that they had a streaming service. But
yeah, from what I've seen
don't
from
go
like tech channels,
No,
it's the idea that Facebook wanted some of that streaming money. They saw that it was making a little bit of revenue for Amazon, and they just wanted a slice of the pie and tried to make a streaming platform. It makes enough money to be viable, and then they've kept it.
I mean, that going to Facebook Gaming would be an option if we didn't live in a world where Ninja and Shroud, despite what I think of Ninja, because I think he's a fucking crybaby bitch. Weak mind saying that, you prick.
That was so fucking funny. Sorry, on you go.
Like, if we didn't live in a world where he could just walk up to Twitch and go, "Can I get my partner status back?" And they'd probably go, "Yeah, sure, go for it." Because Ninja makes money.
Yeah,
Ninja fucking makes money. Twitch probably take it back in a second.
The biggest I watch a lot of a guy called Harris Heller, who is a shaman of video gaming live streaming, and he makes good tech videos and good breakdowns on products to buy and how to set up streams. He has a thing called Alpha Gaming, which is a very good YouTube channel. It's a very good resource for anyone who wants to get interested in Twitch streaming. I just like to learn the kind of mechanics behind what I see on screen because I love watching Twitch streams. I do some occasionally. I do some with Badger and pals, and we do have a good laugh on stream. But he was talking about the fact that
yes, Colin has just announced that Gibberpish will be coming to Twitch.
We are exclusively signing to Twitch, and we will not be broadcasting on Mixer or any other of the imminently failing live broadcasting platforms. We are exclusively going to be streaming on Twitch whenever we can be bothered live streaming this fucking nonsense.
We will be, however, we will be on Twitch, but we will be signing an exclusivity deal with Vimeo with a subscription available through LimeWire. You have to get on board early to get that one.
Can you imagine trying to turn this nonsense into a live stream, like a live professional broadcast? Like me and you sitting there in suits with a green screen in the background, and I was just trying to pretend like this is the serious news brought to you by two drunken idiots.
Just yawn through. And in other news, someone farted on a camera woman, and now she's suing for $30 billion.
Oh, you guys see that Batman comic?
Just Michael Keaton's coming back as Batman.
But like the Twitch side of things, like
just every so often a sort of fart midway through the stream, and just two of us looking at each other, going, "Was it me? Was it you?"
It was the dog.
Or something.
It was the dog. There's no dog. Shit. But he was talking about the fact that the only real competitor to Twitch is YouTube Gaming. And YouTube Gaming is not really a thing. It's just a thing that happens in the background of YouTube that no one really pays attention to. So
YouTube Red, how much money is that making?
I don't...
People choose main page YouTube.
I pay for YouTube Premium. I'm the one person in the UK who just refuses to use ad block. Although I was listening to YouTube Music, which I get as a benefit of YouTube Premium, and I got an advert last night. And I was like, that's not okay. I pay for premium. I don't want adverts. I pay for premium because I don't want adverts. So I'm very curious to see if that's going to become a thing. Keep an eye out on that one, and I'll let you know. But if that happens, I am leaping ship to Spotify so goddamn fast.
See, now you have to pay double premium.
Yeah, I have to pay mega premium. That's the technical term for it. But I mean, as Twitch, like
saying Detroit Smash premium.
I'm proud of you, Dom. You made a My Hero Academia reference. Very proud of you.
Is that where that's from?
Yeah, Detroit Smash is My Hero Academia.
Cool. I understood that reference.
You did on the 4th of July when we celebrate America's ass. We have, but like as we're talking about, like with all the whole like Twitch drama and stuff, as Twitch becomes once again the reigning undisputed champion of live broadcasting, they let go of their biggest star, arguably. Because the largest streamer right now is probably Dr. Disrespect, who has been banished from the platform, and there's no word as to why.
Oh wait, no, we know why. Because some fuckhead on Twitter just said he got kicked off so Ninja could come back. So case closed, right?
There it is. There's all the evidence.
I mean, he clearly has corroborated substantial evidence of his little dickhead friend 4 pages down with a half-naked chick as his banner photo and an anime profile picture going, yeah, I get it. Like, case closed. I can't fight that.
That's what I heard.
I can't fight it.
Did you hear it from?
It's like
Was it the person who sent the tweet? Maybe.
You're just proving that Joe Rogan made a joke and got it right. You don't need to be smart. You just to be more confident than the other fucks, and people think you're a genius. Do you know what you're doing? No. Do you know what you're doing? Yeah, I do. I fucking do. I got this. I hate Twitter. I hate Twitter so fucking much.
I don't think of Rogan when I think of Twitter. I think of George Carlin. Think of the stupidest person you know, or think of the most average person you know, and then realize half the people you know, or half the people in existence, are stupider than that. And I'm like, fuck, there's a lot of them. They're fucking everywhere, man. And a lot of them seem to congregate on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like, we have a mysterious case of the disappearing Dr. Disrespect, and he just disappears out of nowhere, and the only thing I've seen is that no one actually knows what's happening, and that's because neither side, the only two people who know are Dr. Disrespect and Twitch, and neither is making a statement, because the theory I've heard is that it's probably bad enough that making a statement by either side would open up a legal issue for the other side. If that makes sense. So if Twitch says it's because of blah, it might be defamatory to say that in the first place, which is interesting. And then if it's that bad, Dr. Disrespect would never admit to that in the past. And bearing in mind, Dr. Disrespect is a man who admitted on a live stream anything that he, like, you know him as a character, you know him as a wig, you know him as a fake army bulletproof vest on, and some weird fucking mullet and a leather jacket and some aviator glasses on. He took all of that off to admit to having an affair on his wife, which I will say was one of the more harrowing videos I've ever seen a man make. But it was him saying, I have fucked up, I need to own this mistake and fight for my family, so I will not be around for a little while because I'm trying to solve my marriage. And you're like, oh shit, that was not what I expected to wake up to this morning. But yeah, he was on stream when it happened, and I don't know if you've seen the clip, but there was an 8-minute video of him towards the end of his stream where people noticed that he was acting a bit weird, and people suspect he was getting like a heads up, like, you're gonna wrap this up, you're gonna be banned as soon as the stream ends. Because you know he's a Twitch megastar, so he probably has some exclusivity contract and some other terms of conditions wrapped in there, and one of them might be that he would get to end a stream if he was ever being pulled. Speculatively, of course, there's a lot of might be's and maybes, a lot of half truths and missing information there, which is the problem.
Yeah, a lot of ifs, ands, buts, or maybes.
But it was weird to see a titan of that platform disappear, and it's been like a week now, and no one has said shit, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's what I found weird, because you think that, because there's always going to be the orbiting, what I like to call the little dog. You remember in the old Tom and Jerry cartoons, there'd be the big dog.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name.
Just kind of, what are we going to do today? And the big dog's just, shut up. I'm copying Joe Rogan a lot this fucking podcast. Jesus Christ. But like the little dogs will just be going about going, why don't you tell whatever Dr. Disrespect's real name is? Like, let him know what's fucking happened. Let him know why he's been banned, all that shit. I've not seen any of that. So I'm thinking maybe, like you said, he's put the word out just saying, look, I've been kicked off the platform. That's the end of it. Not everyone needs to know.
Yeah, I think there has been like a statement by someone, I think it's his wife, who said, like, he's okay. Like, he's obviously in a state right now Like it must be hard to lose everything you've fought for and built for the last however many years. Like people think Doctor Disrespect is a random pop up character, but he was around for years before he got famous through PUBG. And that was a big, like, it was a big launching part of his career. It really helped push him a lot further than you'd think. Like a weird niche 80s action character playing video games could go, but that helped him really develop an online personality and really get further and further and further in his career than many people do, like to reach the top 0.01% of Twitch streamers. And I think having all that disappear would naturally take a toll on anyone. And right now, I think apparently he's okay, but again, like no one is willing to say what's actually happening in the background. So yeah, the gaming industry or the gaming entertainment industry is kind of a mess, but you know there's still one thing worth talking about when it comes to gaming, and that is the games itself. Dom, you've been playing Last of Us, right?
Yeah, and
Last
not
of Us 2.
going into this. Sorry?
Last of Us 2. I just said The Last of Us and realised you should clarify The Last of Us 2. It's not a big deal to play The Last of Us.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal to play a game that's fuck. When did Last of Us Part 1 come out?
I want to say 6 years ago.
Last of Us Part 1, no. That
Yeah.
came out in the PlayStation 3. So I want to say that game is 12.
Shit.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I'd say it's 15 years old or something. I can remember that coming out in 2007. But
yeah.
hold on, I shall give it a quick
If
Google.
only we had the access to all the internet. The Last of Us is a 2013 action game, so yeah, actually 7 years. So I wasn't that far off. I mean, the console generation that we're in right now hasn't been around for that long.
Initial release date 2013. That doesn't seem right.
Anyway, not important.
Yeah, I mean, was the PlayStation 3 still a thing in 2013? Doesn't fucking matter. But yeah, so
the important thing is that I'm righter than you are. Okay, let's.
I mean, it's just a culture shock. I thought it came out way before. It doesn't matter. No one gives a shit. People have played Last of Us Part 1. If you haven't,
if you have not played this video game, bleh to you, sir. Bleh.
safe unto thee. Bleh.
That'd be such a great Shakespearean line that no one else knew.
I saith unto thee.
It's just him raising the finger, making the fart noise. And I say unto thee, sir. We're so mature.
So I fucking Last of Us Part 2, right? But it's a game that I wasn't really looking forward to playing. But that's because on one of my group chats that I'm on Facebook, I know two of the people who played it. And when it comes to PlayStation games, I usually ask these two guys, have you played it? Is it worth playing? But at this point, I knew that there was some bad buzz going around The Last of Us because we've seen what happened with the leaks that I managed to avoid like a fucking master ninja.
Yeah, they were pretty ubiquitous.
Yeah, they were everywhere. And so I didn't catch any of that. They said they'd seen it and they said, I'm not interested in this game. And this is a direct quote from one of them saying, I'm not interested in a game that has to deals with rampant lesbianism and transgender murder. And I'm like, but about that, do we know that it's a transgender character? But anyway, there was all that kind of bad shit going around the game, so I was kind of hesitant to post on the group chat that was installing it. So, I wanted to see, I'd maybe, talk about it a bit with them. I posted the picture and not 10 seconds later, a message of no, all caps, with about 18 exclamations after it was the first message. The second message from the other person that was thinking they may have an opinion on it was, dude, you're not going to enjoy it. You're really, really not going to enjoy it. And to an extent, playing through it, I didn't enjoy it. The first couple hours of the game were rough. Particularly as someone who played the first Last of Us game, and this is going to sound really weird and kind of metaphysical, but I kind of connected with the character of Joel a little bit.
No, it's understandable. You're supposed to connect with art in a way.
Yeah, because I'm a murderer. I destroy hospitals full of people.
Gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Got to
These
put bread on
COVID
the table.
times, these COVID times keep pushing us, man. We gotta do what you gotta do.
You just murder a hospital full of people just trying to survive. Uh, this podcast is going in a weird direction. But
Yeah, because before now it was entirely normal.
before then it was just 100% Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien, Western conversations. Now we're just going weird. But yeah, the first game, I connected with the character of Joe because he was kind of like me. If I'm working with you, I'll get the job done. But at the same time, I'm not going to let you know a shit ton about me. I keep my cards close to the chest. I keep everyone at an arm's length, and that's what Joel did in the first game. So that was my way into the game, and the game itself kind of opened itself up because you're fighting infected. You learn a bit more about the world. The world itself it's working its way through this infection, and Joel's kind of working himself through this trauma of the start of The Last of Us Part One. Joel, his town gets hit with a horde of infected. You try and escape the horde, and your daughter gets shot, and that has a heavy effect on Joel. So the whole part of the first game is Joel opening up and learning
to love again.
Learn to love again, yeah. So the second part was all about Ellie finding out that at the end of the first game,
Joel committed a war crime.
yeah, Joel pretty much led to the greater infection of the rest of the world after the initial outbreak. Because you find out in the first game, and it also plays a heavy part in the second. Oh, not a heavy part, but a little part in the second game. That Ellie is immune to the infection. She cannot be, no matter how many times she gets bit, she's completely immune to the infection. So, in the first game, Joel's story was to get Ellie from the starting point, which I can't remember where it was, to the end point, which is either Washington or Boston. I cannot fucking remember.
It's Washington, because if it was Boston, you'd remember. You'd be like, oh my god, I don't want to be in Far Harbor. Fuck off.
All right. I think you started the game in Boston, and you have to make your way to Washington, and so you can hand her over at the hospital, and they can figure out what's causing her immunity to this infection. But then by the time you get there, Joel realizes that, all right, you're going to have to dig the infection. You're going to have to dig the immunity out of her by ripping it out of her central nervous system or some shit, or finding out what part of her body gives her this immunity. So you're basically going to just cut her into pieces. So Joel, having already lost a daughter, doesn't want to lose a surrogate daughter, and butchers the entirety of the hospital. Ellie finds out about that and just like, you're a dick. You could have saved humanity, but no, you saved me. What the fuck is wrong with you? So there's a kind of splintered relationship between Joel and Ellie that sets up part of the second game.
First note, but Ellie, be a bit more grateful. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, your life. Fuck.
The man put effort in to kill an entire hospital. Do you know how many rooms are in a hospital? Do you know how much effort that man put in to saving your life? Ungrateful bitch.
Hospital, you ungrateful bitch. Yeah, floor to floor, killing all those soldiers and doctors and nurses.
And you know he had to go through the chemo ward. Those people were sick.
You have to get rid of a whole slew of people. So, but in doing so, Joel unknowingly kills the father of new main character Abby, who plays. She plays a role in the second game, but it is a role that could be cut out completely, and you'd still get a Last of Us experience.
Right.
If you know what I mean. She's in there. Laura Bailey knocks it out of the park playing that character, but that character is boring as shit.
That's a strange one, because Laura Bailey does interesting characters, and it's a shame that she was stuck to a character you would describe as boring.
No, not just boring. Boring as fuck.
There was a lot of
between silent and observant, because she just kind of she doesn't talk much. She just watches, and she'll chime in every now and again. She switches from silent and observant to ultra violent, like. And the amount of time it takes you to click your fingers. I was going to click my fingers, but you're not going to hear it on fucking microphone. But the time it takes you to click your fingers, that's how quickly she flips.
Actually, based on my experience of microphones, especially the Blue Yeti that you've got, you will hear it. It will just pierce everyone's eardrums. So I'm glad you didn't do it.
I mean, I only have one working ear right now, so it's not going to fucking bother me that much. I won't be a dick. So, The Last of Us Part 2 is split between the Ellie story and the Abby story. The Ellie story is Ellie trying to kill Abby for what Abby did at the start of the game, which is spoilers. And I will preface this now, there's going to be heavy spoilers throughout this discussion. Unfortunately, I'm not that good a writer to figure out how to do this without spoiling the shit out of it, so I
And
apologize.
we're talking about a narrative game here. You really can't talk about the game without talking about the narrative.
So at the start of the game, you meet up with Abby as she is in Jackson in Wyoming.
Sounds
And
about right. Yeah, why not?
she's with a group called the Washington Liberation Front.
Mm-hmm.
And she's with a group called the Washington Liberation Front, but she's taking a small 8-man team to go to Jackson and find Joel and kill him for what you're led to believe through conversation with Abby and other characters, that Joel knocked up one of Abby's friends, because you hear her muttering to herself, "It's like, we need to get this guy. He has to pay for what he's done." There's a little pause, and she says, "He had to have done it. He had to have knocked her up. He had to have gotten her pregnant." And at that point, I wanted to turn the disc off. I wanted to turn the PlayStation off. I'm like, I cannot play a game with this dumb a reason for wanting to kill a man.
Shit
you want-
happens. Okay,
shit.
the condom breaks. Deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't for the fact, if this was a non-zombie apocalypse outbreak type scenario, sure, by all means, beat the living shit out of the guy that knocks up your missus. But
If
there's
it's
literally a plague going on in the background. There's people getting eaten and munched and turned into those weird cordyceps clicker motherfuckers. Yeah, you sure. You go and, try and kill this one dude who's thousands of miles away because you think he did something.
yeah, deadbeat dads are not the priority right now.
Yeah, like trying to cure the population is. But so she catches up to Joel, and the bit that makes the death all the worse is that Joel and his brother Tommy find Abby out in the wilderness because no one wants to follow Abby through a blizzard to try and find this one dude. So Abby goes off on her own. Joel and Tommy find her, and they fight tooth and fucking nail to get her to safety. He hands her ammunition, he defends her while she's trying to set something up. And then the minute they get back to the lodge, where Abby's other friends, the other Washington Liberation Front, or Wolves as the game calls them, the other Wolves are there, and Joel introduced himself, and so there's Tommy, and it's like, "Oh, you've heard of me before." And at that point, Abby shoots him in the kneecap and then beats his head in with a golf club.
Damn. Okay.
It's fucking brutal. And all the while, Ellie is pinned to the ground, being made to watch it. And that sets the events in motion where Ellie essentially goes scorched fucking earth on the Washington Liberation Front and just storms her way through Seattle to try and find Abby, killing anything and everything that gets in her way.
Now that's interesting because that's roughly the summary that I've heard from a bunch of gaming podcasts that have been talking about this. I'm not going to play this game. I'm not interested in The Last of Us as a franchise. I'll get around to it eventually, but even then, I am willing to consume media after spoilers. And a lot of people that I've been listening
to... on PC, it's probably going to get an update on PS5, so no offense, Colin, I can't really see you picking this one up.
Oh, come on, man. I'll spend the $700 and then the 70 quid per game required for PS5 games, and I'll pick up both remasters of both games.
You pick up a PS5 remaster of a PS3 game.
I wonder if that'll happen. Anyway, everyone I've been talking to about this has said that it is very strange to have a game that so centers around the trauma around witnessing violence, and then having a character who is so remorselessly dishing out the same type of violence that they witnessed that traumatized them.
Yeah, and there's a lot of these kind of... They do some parts of the game are done really well. Like Ellie's interactions with a character called Dina help to humanize her a little bit, because Dina's Ellie's girlfriend, and you find out by playing the game that Dina's pregnant. So Ellie kind of realizes, shit, she's the priority here.
Right.
I need to stop this, and we need to go home. Like
Yeah.
we need to I need to stop this rampage.
My
and then
rampage needs to like take priority. Like it needs to be put on the back burner. Sorry, while the baby takes priority.
yeah, she stops it then. But then when you finish the game and you're back to playing as you have your encounter with Abby at the very end of Ellie's story, or because you play as Ellie, then Abby, then Ellie again after that. It jumps about a bit. It gets quite annoying. But after you have your final fight with Ellie at the end of Abby's story, Abby lets Ellie live. Ellie goes back to Jackson, and Dina has the baby. They all have this kind of idyllic life on a farm, I might add. The baby's happy and healthy. And at that point, Tommy bursts into the room and says, "I found her. We need to go after this bitch. This bitch killed my brother." Then Ellie just kind of forgets.
Ask as a quick aside, who the fuck is Tommy?
Tommy is Joel's brother.
Okay, right, got you.
So naturally, Tommy wants to get the chick that killed his brother.
Yeah.
Naturally, and then because at the end of Abby's story, when Abby finally confronts Ellie for killing her friends, because through Ellie's rampage through Seattle. So apologies for jumping about a bit here, but it's kind of how I've got it in my head.
You're on par with the game at this point. It's fine.
Yeah, but when Ellie is trying to figure out where Abby is, so she can, finally enact her revenge, she gets to an aquarium in Seattle, and she finds a character called Owen and a character called Mel, who are a couple of Abby's really good friends. Ellie fucking shoots the shit out of Owen and stabs Mel, who is pregnant at the time, making it doubly fucked up.
Right.
So at that point, Ellie realized, I just killed a pregnant woman. What if she does that to Dina? I'm getting the fuck out of you.
Right.
Abby finds this, storms back to the cinema, the theater that they're hunkering down in, and just starts fucking, destroying people. She shoots one character in the head, and she starts, unloading bullets on Tommy. Tommy gets shot in the kneecap or something, and he gets one of his eyes, burst. So, flashing back to the end of the game, Tommy has a limp, and he's got one working eye. He's like, I can't do this. Ellie, you need to go and finish this for me. And Ellie, after, maybe exercising the demons, putting it to bed, she goes, yeah, okay, I'll do it.
I thought you almost come to terms with your own violence and need to seek revenge, and then one guy comes up and is like, you got to do it, I can't, I'm a cripple, and you're like, I guess I'm helping a crippled person.
But she tries to justify it by saying, I don't sleep. Whenever I close my eyes, I just see Joel's face. And you got your ass kicked by Abby. Abby said, don't fucking show up again. You were going to leave Seattle because you thought, I can't get my friends involved in this. But because Tommy says you need to end this, you're going to go scorched earth on it again.
You're going to just open that entire can of whoop-ass all the way back open again?
Yeah.
Because one guy's like, come on.
Come on, Joe was a good guy. You can go and kill this bitch.
Remember Joe? I remember Joe. Joe was nice.
Joe was my brother, man. He was a good guy. Joe taught you how to play guitar. I swear to fuck, right? I just remember something. The fucking guitar sections. Right? There's points in the game where you can pick up an acoustic guitar and using the PlayStation 4 touchpad and one of the thumbsticks, you can move it to pick chords and strum the guitar. You have to do that 4 times throughout the game. You have to sit and play songs on the guitar.
How much of that do you think is based on the fact that the first trailer, the kind of teaser trailer of Last of Us 2 was a guitar intro? I think it was Johnny Cash's Hurt. It might have been Johnny Cash's
by Ashley Johnson.
Yes.
Who's the voice of Ellie, for those who don't know.
But yeah, they did that as the kind of teaser, and it was the biggest thing that anyone's ever seen, and it was the greatest thing ever, and it was such a hype moment. I wonder how much of that was, well, we did hype the shit out of the guitar playing, I guess we should have it be a thing that happens multiple times, or do you think it is a legitimate attempt to connect Ellie with Joel through the medium of the fact that he taught her guitar?
I think it is a good... I think it was an attempt to have a good way to connect the characters of Ellie and Joel, because once Joel says to Ellie, The reason why we took you to that Firefly hospital was so that you could be dissected and so they could find a cure. Obviously, Ellie takes that the wrong way. And all the way through it, Joel still tries to, be the good guy. He starts playing her songs on the guitar, and even before that, he starts saying, "I'll teach you the guitar." And through it, there's always this theme of Joel being the teacher, and teaching her how to play guitar, teaching her how to shoot, teaching her how to use a knife and shit like that. So it's all to have this kind of callback to Joel, almost.
Yeah.
But I just found it unnecessary and quite frankly annoying, because at one point you're in the middle of a chase. You quickly dispatch the people who you're fighting. You run back to the theater to hunker down, and your first reaction, or my first thought, would be, right, be quiet, hunker down, kill anything that might make a noise, shut off all the lights, and just lay low. The first thing you do is you go and check on Dina. You put your bag down, you start playing the guitar.
It's tactical, bro. It's a tactical acoustic guitar.
It's fucking dumb. That's what it is.
So it seems like one of those things where, with this being such a cinematic game, so heavily based on characters and drama and dialogue, that they've tried to write a narrative in a certain way, and although it works, apparently the core fundamental gameplay is phenomenal. It's a bit disjointed.
Yeah, it jumps about a bit too much, and it expects you. The way it tells its story is naturally kind of jumpy, because you'll play a bit as Ellie in the present time, then it'll flash back to a mission with Ellie and Joel where you're in a museum checking out all the exhibits and messing around with dinosaur bones and shit like that, trying on astronaut helmets and sitting in the pod thing. Then it'll flash forward to a bit where you're playing as Ellie again in the future or in the present. Then when you're playing as Abby, it'll be you going through Seattle trying to help out or do Abby's side of the story. Then it'll flash back to young Abby with her dad in the hospital at Washington. I'm just like, these flashback things don't help me at all. Like, give me more of present day characters instead of this flashback shit.
One thing that I thought was interesting was you talked to me about your playtime. Now, I've seen some people say that the one I was listening to was Let's Fight a Boss, and that was Neve saying that she was 10 hours in, and that was reasonably far in. She said she's like, I think I'm about a third, so I'm estimating playtime is 30 hours. When you said your playtime at a good, like you were pushing yourself, was 23 hours, or was I right in saying that?
Yeah, pardon me, I pushed it at 23, it might be 24 hours, but at certain points, particularly when I was playing as Abby, because at that point I was fucking done. Abby's story felt like it should have been the forefront of the game, or it started off being like, this is the main character. We're not going to have you play as Joel and Ellie because we're going to have Abby be another, or tell another story in the same universe. But instead, Abby, who is a wolf, she's of the Washington Liberation Front. She's in Seattle, and the group that her group is fighting against is called the Seraphites.
Right.
Basically this kind of Amish holy order who have renounced old world technology. I think the furthest they go into new world technology is pistols and shotguns. Most of the time you see them using bows, a bow and arrow, and they don't have communication systems. They communicate through high-pitched whistles.
And smoke signals and yada yada.
Shit like that. Yeah, they're very old world, very new Old Testament. And throughout the game, whenever Abby's talking to any of the other wolves or any other people that are in the WLF, the words "fucking scars" come up, because the Seraphites, their nicknames are the Scars, because they'll have sort of the Glasgow smile, the Glasgow kiss, not the Glasgow kiss, like the Glasgow smile, where they've got the cuts from the sides of their lips going up to their ear.
Yeah, if you're not aware what a Glasgow smile is, think the Joker from Heath Ledger's performance in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, pretty much exactly. They've got the kind of cuts in the side of their cheeks. So through Abby's interactions with some of the other WLF members, it's just, we need to go out here and get these fucking scars. These fucking scars are burning us up. And Abby is known as one of the best soldiers in the WLF. And she's like, if there's any fighting to be done, Abby's going to be on the front line shooting those fucking scars. Fuck those scars. And through in the game, she's trying to go and talk to Owen because Owen apparently committed some treason against the WLF. She's been tasked to go and find them, but through that, she gets captured by the Scars, uh, like basically hung to die, and she gets saved by two Seraphites.
Right. I think
And
I've seen
they
this as like
they
a
cut her
teaser trailer.
things. Hmm?
I think I may have seen this part as maybe not like maybe like a kind of demo trailer. Is
Maybe.
that where like a girl with a bow and a kid cut her down? And
Yeah.
it's just like a wave is coming, a wave of the zombies, the infected, are coming immediately out of the darkness. And they're like, fuck it, third body, they'll help.
It wasn't a wave of zombies, it's a wave of the Seraphites, the Scars, because
Oh.
these two are defects, or defectors
Right, okay.
from the Seraphite Order. So they cut Abby down, and Abby's just like, oh wait, you guys are Scars? I know what, you fuck it, we're good. Like, I've killed so many of you people, but we're good. You cut me down from a noose, I'm not going to kill you. And there's like, it keeps going on, and even though the characters in the game call her out for just that, you've killed so many of these Scars. Why have two children changed your mind?
Yeah.
Weird.
It's a really weird one, but I mean, I guess if you're trying to write a 30-hour narrative, you really have to just wind through every single like possible option, if that makes sense. You have to
just
go
need
through
walk
every
the tropes.
every possible character interaction has to be written down and just kind of run through it and tried to see if it works, and it's part of the most interesting part of the game. I wonder if would you like to, like as somebody who played it, would you like to see a kind of director's cut, like not like a retelling, but like if they took away some stuff, do you think like an edit would help? Does that make sense?
See, before I think the version that has been released is probably the best version that they could have made, if that makes any sense. I don't think a director's cut would make any difference, because I think the director's cut would just include more interactions with Ellie and Abby with other characters who would either confirm or damn their point of view.
Well, maybe not like a director's cut, which we always assume means like add more, but would you maybe take away some stuff? Do you think it would help like to trim it down a bit?
Abby's story.
Okay, just delete the entire, highlight, copy, paste, delete.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fucking harsh, but Abby was a fairly boring character.
Oh, okay. Which is weird because she's such a core part of the game, is from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it just there's some points where when Abby gets back to the aquarium after Ellie has broken in looking for Abby and has killed Owen and Mel, they try and humanize Abby a bit too much, because she drops to her knees and just goes, "No, this can't." Like she doesn't say much, but it kind of has this look on his face like, "No, this can't be. Like, why? What did I do to deserve this?" And I'm like, "Bitch, you stormed Jackson and killed. You did the same thing to her. You must have expected this to happen to you.
Yeah.
You honestly couldn't have expected this to be the end."
You just mind you got called out for it.
Yeah. At that point, I'm pretty sure I even said, I think I was playing it in my room, my brother was probably there, and I'm pretty sure I even said out loud, "Fuck's sake, what's the point?"
See, it's weird that like you've been talking about this, but the only two things I can think of as far as questions about this game is, one, what would an aquarium look like about 15, 20 years after a disaster? Like,
It's the exact same, just with more fungus.
Yeah, but like real life within an aquarium. Like if I just like there's a Deep Sea World here in Scotland, just not far away from us, and it was the source of many a classroom trip for us growing up, because it could be reached by bus in under an hour. And I wonder
They always give you free tickets to classes.
if we just shut that down, what would happen? Like if nothing was there, like I was like with COVID lockdown stuff, there'll be people going in to feed it, feed the animals and stuff that are there. But if you just kind of left that, and animal nature kicks in, what's left?
Probably not much, considering there's a few sharks.
Yeah, but like, do the sharks know to only kill enough to eat and then sustain themselves? Do fish reproduce fast enough to like sustain population? I just part of me just running that as like kind of what if? And the second thing was, you talk about the Amish being part of like a major force in the Northwest in this game, and I'm like, you know what? If I had to restart civilization, I would definitely use the Amish because they have a lot of core, like fundamental skills that most people just don't have because they don't use modern technology. And I was like, shit, that's a good one. The Amish would do really well in the post-apocalypse.
Obviously, they don't call them Amish. They're a bit more zealous than the Amish. Because the two characters that you're talking about, that I was talking about that help Abby,
Yeah.
they are called Lev and Yara. And Lev is the transgender character.
Right.
And she's part of the religious order of the Seraphites, and she's seen as impure and unclean. And she was set to be married off to one of the other elders at some point. But then she chose to live her life as a boy and shave her head, which was banned and frowned upon
Very
because she's not a
naughty.
soldier, she's not one of the men. Then she, fled the order. Then bad shit just ensued.
Yeah. Although I do like the idea of there being a more hardcore version of Amish. Like, you literally give up every modern convenience to be Amish, and then you say, there's another layer. Which I guess might just be, you keep going with that silly tradition after the apocalypse.
Yeah.
You look at a world gone to actual shit and you say, you know what, still going to stick with the rule book. Rules is rules, we wrote them down, it means something to me.
Yeah, and it's weird.
So when you finish with The Last of Us 2, it seems like it must be played by people who've played the first one, just to kind of round out certain stories. Does it wrap up significantly? Does it finish well?
It kind of Return of the King's because I identified 3 endings. One being the actual ending, and 2 where it could have ended.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is where Abby gets to the theater where Ellie and Dina and another character, Jesse, who's from Jackson, where Ellie originally started her journey. They get into a fight, and Abby says, Abby wins the fight and says, don't let me catch you, or don't let me see your face again. But that could have ended there. Ellie survived. Could just left it at that. I thought, because I said audibly when I got to that part, I was like, okay, that's the end of the game. We're going to get back to Jackson, then Ellie's going to be limping or licking her wounds and saying, right, I'm done with this revenge thing. Can't avenge Joel, but I'd be suicidal if I went up against her again.
Yeah.
Then it cuts to the second ending where I thought, all right, this is where it's going to end. With Ellie and Dina and the baby in the farmhouse just outside Jackson. I'm like, okay, she's happy. Like,
Maybe this is the real ending where you have the growth, you have the change, you have the benefits of change being shown to the viewer.
Yeah, she did the Japanese thing. She got the haircut, signifying a new journey in life. I was like, okay, this is where the ending. Nope, that's where Tommy's stepping in with his one eye missing and his limp. And oh, great, she's picking up the trail again. So this game's not over. Cue another hour and a half of content that I don't want to play through. Then the game actually ends with a pretty brutal fist fight between Ellie and Abby that I did not want to play through. Like, it just felt fucking awful because Abby is trying to catch up with a group that she used to be a part of called the Fireflies, which she heard are regrouping after Joel's massacre of them back at the hospital. So she's in Santa Barbara trying to track down the Firefly remnants. And she finds a radio, starts radioing in saying, this is Abby from Santa Barbara looking for any remnant Fireflies, blah, blah, blah. And she gets caught by a group called the Rattlers, who basically just string her up on an almost crucifix and leave her there to wither and die. Ellie finds out about this through Tommy, basically leaves all that character growth behind to go and kill Abby. She fights through about another 40-odd dudes, gets to Abby, who is emaciated and skinny. She's had her hair all cut and shit. She cuts them down. She cuts Abby down from her pillar, her crucifix thing, helps her get onto a boat, and says, "You can't leave here alive. I can't leave you here." Abby doesn't want to fight because she's been strung up for a few days, naturally.
She's basically halfway to dead.
Yeah. Then Ellie points a knife at Lev, who was also strung up on one of the pillars, and says, "You will fucking fight me, or I'll kill him." And then this really, really awful fight ensues, because the two of them are beaten up and haggard and bloody, and you're just thinking, let them go. Just let it go and end at that. Go and live your goddamn lives.
Come this close to your vengeance and then realize it's not worth it. Learn a lesson, walk away a bigger person.
Yeah, like listen to the Chinese proverb: "Man who seeks revenge must dig 2 graves."
Yeah.
So, what happens was, as you could probably guess, the fight happens, and just as Ellie's about to kill Abby, she gets a little flash in her head of Joel playing the guitar. So she takes her hands off Abby's throat and just says, "Get the fuck out of here. We're done. Go." And then gets into a boat and sails away. And then Ellie goes back to her farmhouse, finds that Dina has packed up everything and left.
Understandably.
With the exception of Ellie's stuff, all her paintings and drawings and stuff that she kept in her room with a guitar. You play the guitar again to end the game. And then the game literally ends with Ellie walking out behind the house. And that is quite literally it. Ellie leaves. There's no last few words from Ellie saying, "I'm going to find a doctor and I'm going to make this fucking cure."
Or I'm going to hunt down Abby, or I'm going to go find my girlfriend. There's no definitive ending to any of it.
I was genuinely expecting Ellie to walk out of the farmhouse and just hear a gunshot or something like that.
That would be an interesting end.
She just walks out. That's it. She just leaves.
Well, I guess that's how you know you're greenlit for another sequel. You can end it on
the way that this went down. I do not think there's going to be a Last of Us Part 3.
But
DLC maybe, but
I mean, if based on media hype and based on the fact that most people there was a very volatile reaction to this. The game itself, not helped by the producer Neil Druckmann, basically going off at anyone who disagrees with him on Twitter, seems to be kind of like the actual reviews tend to be more like yours, where I've seen a lot of people saying it's garbage or it's the greatest game ever. Most people are like, it's okay. Most like actual gamers.
It's not great. It's not piss poor. It's just mediocre almost. It's not fantastic. It's a good waste of 30 hours if you're looking for something to play, but it's just kind of mediocre. It's neither great nor fantastic. It's a good 5 out of 10 game.
I think the big backlash comes from the fact that this follows on from one of the highest regarded PSD games of all time, from a highly regarded studio who are consistent quality is they always improve. Like last Uncharted is the same studio. Like Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 continually get better, and then you have The Last of Us, which was seen as the capstone on this entire thing. Especially when like The Last of Us was so good, apparently, that when Roger Ebert, the film critic, died, he had always had a beef with video games where he never understood the value of video game storytelling. So when The Last of Us came out, people wanted to really they wanted that to be a game that he played and experienced, to see the value as an example of video game storytelling, because they believed that would be the thing that won him over. But I don't think he ever actually played it before he died.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to say that the story's mediocre. I'd say the story's mediocre. Yeah. Gameplay, it's some of the best example. It's probably the best example of a Naughty Dog game. Obviously there's still some little glitches here and there with. I found a weird jumping glitch where it would always. It looked like I was going to land on a platform, but it would just take me a step back, so I'd fall off. That happened a couple of times. It was kind of annoying.
Yeah,
but gameplay wise, it was fantastic. All the accessibility options. I think that's genuinely the way to go for the future of games. Like, have it open to everybody. Have these accessibility options just available on every game that you make. But yeah, story wise, it was just kind of mediocre. In the back of my head, I always just kind of thought, right, this is okay. I don't mind the story, but there's an infection, zombie apocalypse. You want to try and be the people that stop the infection. Like
there is a bigger priority than your petty revenge, and I think as far as like a revenge story goes, you could tell the interesting story of someone who really wants revenge, but maybe doesn't quite have to work with, but has to kind of coexist with someone that they really, really should hate and should want to kill.
Mm-hmm. So, the infection just kind of carries on in the background.
Yeah,
So
that's a weird one.
there's a point where you're playing as Abby and you're going through an abandoned hospital to try and find supplies for the character Yara, because she gets her elbow smashed by a hammer,
Right.
and she gets something called compartment syndrome, which basically means that the arm's shattered and it needs to come off. So Abby has to go and find supplies like morphine and saws and medical
Tourniquets.
equipment to cut the arm off.
Right.
So she has to go floor by floor trying to find equipment, and the only place that she can go freely without arousing the suspicion of all the other WLF members is the basement, which was ground zero for the outbreak in Seattle. So they
Right.
sealed that area off. No one's allowed in or out. All that kind of shit. So she gets to the basement and she fights through the usual horde of zombies. The horde of infected, they're not technically zombies. But then you find an enemy called the Rat King, which is just all these infected just kind of grouped together into one big massive ball of fungus and teeth and nastiness. And this thing's a beast.
Is it infected people or is it infected rats?
Infected people.
Right,
But
because
it's just
like the Rat King
all these
thing
people
is
stuck together.
the Rat King is an urban legend of just rats that live too close together melding into one.
Yeah. I thought the Rat King was when rats kind of stick together and their tails get intertwined and they can't pull it apart.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like most of it's by the tail, but like it's just rats living in such close conditions that they just kind of get stuck together.
Yeah, that's basically what this thing is. It's just basically groups of infected that have just melded together into one big massive behemoth of a fucking thing.
Oh, fuck.
It's a really cool fight, and it made me kind of think, right, the infection should be a more prevalent part of this. Deal with the infection. And if they do The Last of Us Part 3, which I can't really see doing, I think they might do DLC, or might just leave it at that. I personally hope they just leave it at the end of 2. But
Wouldn't it be good if the DLC was just called Meanwhile, and it's just like it's like a series of last stands of all the people that Ellie, Ellie and Abby were supposed to help. All these people who were just like waiting on supplies and like last minute air raids and stuff like that, like last minute artillery strikes that those guys were supposed to set off with having their stupid fucking beef for like 10 years.
Yeah, they're just having a back and forth beef. But yeah, I wanted to see more about the infection and how the cordyceps virus spreads. But no, we're just
I feel like that's a problem.
these two fucks.
I feel like that's a problem with like zombie media in general, is that the whole thing I've talked about this a couple of times on the podcast is that the most terrifying thing about the zombie apocalypse is how people act, not the zombies themselves. But at the same time, I would love to see a breakdown on how you fight a zombie infection. If there are 100,000 people left on the planet and they have to fight the remaining 7 billion zombies, how do you make that work? I'm always interested in that part of it, and no one ever gets there because they always get bogged down in the kind of minutia of human interaction. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Killing zombies for 400 pages of a comic book or an anime or a manga or whatever is boring. But at the same time, I want to see the bigger picture of fighting a zombie survival war. I think that'd be really interesting. Maybe that's just me.
Cool, but sadly, I think it's due in no small part to The Walking Dead that we get these stories that could have really, really cool, like science fiction horror elements to them, that we get bogged down in these shitty little character moments, which you do need some character moments. But
Yeah.
why the fuck do I give a shit about, Rick? If he's not even on the show anymore, but Rick and his, best friend having an affair with his wife while he was in a coma. Right, I get that that's big news if there isn't a zombie infection.
Yeah. But in the meantime, there is an actual zombie infection in this world. Why are you not dealing with that? Like, he fucked your wife. Get over it. He's a living person.
It happened. You were in a coma.
Honestly, who wouldn't take the shot?
Yeah.
There's actually, just talking about The Walking Dead, I have been watching Ozark, the Netflix Jason Bateman series. And one thing that always annoyed me during like season 2 and 3 was they always hinted that the Rick's kid Carl would always go off and become this weird gun nut and become like basically a school shooter but in a zombie apocalypse. And they always handled it very badly. And I was like, Carl is just a little kid. He's not actually going to do anything. He's not actually becoming crazy. If you want to talk about a great like minutia driven character arc, the kid in the first season of Ozark becomes a not quite gun nut, but he starts to learn and train about guns and stuff like that, like to defend his family due to the fact that they're being possibly hunted by the cartel. And the way they set it up is really good because in like end of episode 1, they basically confess that the dad is running, or it might be start of episode 2. They confess, yeah, your dad's running money for the cartel in Mexico, and the kid goes and Googles what the cartel is, what the cartel does, which is something a kid would do. And then he goes, "Oh my god!" Because he sees the reality of like cartels breaking into like rival cartel homes and murdering everyone, and he thinks that's what's going to happen to him. So he becomes obsessed with shotguns and rifles and learns to shoot and stuff like that. And I thought it was a much better arc than what they did with Carl. But you have to do it right. Like these kind of character interactions need a reason to happen, if that makes sense, in zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, you need to do the world building. I agree with you. On that one.
But yeah, so actually the other question I was going to ask was, you said that obviously it must be played by people who played Last of Us 1. Would you recommend someone with no experience of the franchise go through and play Last of Us 1 and 2?
Yeah, I definitely recommend that you play 1 because 1's a pretty good game. 2's a good game as well, but the story I think is where it falls flat. I think 1 at most was a 16-hour game.
Yeah.
And every part of that you're just thinking, right, this leads to the next part. This builds upon this. But in 2, it starts at A, goes to D, goes back to B, goes forward to Q, comes back to E, and then ends on Batman symbol. It just jumps about a bit too much to be a cohesive story, and there's no real payoff for it. Because the payoff in the first one is Joel saying, "You know what? Fuck you, Fireflies. Ellie gets to live." That's the payoff. The payoff in The Last of Us 2, well, what the non-payoff in The Last of Us 2 is, Ellie doesn't kill Abby. Ellie loses Dina. Ellie is now alone and directionless.
Maybe that means she's the real Last of Us.
She is quite literally the last person left.
She's the last person the camera sees.
Yeah, and to me there was no real payoff, but that's just one view. There are people out there that think this game's a masterpiece. They'll probably be able to explain these little nuances of the game better than I can. But from my knowledge, I expected more, and it didn't really deliver.
Well, I'm glad you gave us an honest review of it because, as you say, like the community feedback around this is so toxic, both one way and the other.
But the people that are saying it's so toxic are going by the leaks. I guarantee they're going by the leaks because they've seen Joel, who, for all intents and purposes, is a murderer. He kills so many people in the first game.
We love him, but he does bad things.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of The Last of Us. He's a good character, but he kind of murders people. He's a smuggler and he kills people and tortures them. No one's a good character in The Last of Us universe. There are no heroes. That's probably why HBO wants their hands on it.
Although, a bit weird, I will say I saw that Troy Baker, the guy who voices Joel, picked Josh Brolin, said he'd be a great fit for it. I'm like, did you just pat yourself in the back that hard? That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a bit of a weird space with Troy Baker's tweets and content right now, but that's a story for another time. I love his voice work, but the stuff, the YouTube videos and the tweets and stuff that he's putting out just now is so fucking pretentious it annoys me. I love the guy, fantastic voice actor. His work on Retro Replay is awesome. I've met the guy twice, fucking stand-up guy every time. But this new path that he's on Twitter and on YouTube, I can't follow him down it, man.
Well, speaking of pretentious, annoying stories,
I did want to say I'm not quite finished talking about Last of Us.
Alright, go for it. Yeah,
Last of Us Part 2, like I say, good game, but it does lead on to the game that I'm playing now and loving 1,000% more, and that is God of War, which I've only played about 2 hours of, and I have fought Draugr, like evil zombie people. I've thrown axes at things. I have told my child Atreus to shoot things. I've carried trees that are double the size of a human being.
We
All
should
while
probably
Christopher
clarify.
Judge just yells, "Boy!" It is the perfect palate cleanser to The Last of Us Part 2.
While we're talking about this, we should probably clarify that when we say God of War, we don't mean the original God of War. We mean the new segment of the franchise God of War, which happened on PS4.
God of War 4, technically. But God of War.
The Nordic one.
But it does kind of raise another question, another point that I really wanted to rant about, and that is that my PlayStation 4, despite having been cleaned out, sounds like it's about to take off again.
That happened to my brother's PS4 as well. I have no idea what it is. Do you have the older model?
Yeah, I had the older model, and when I first bought Monster Hunter World, fucking excited to play that, but plugged it in, played it for about a good month, then all of a sudden it sounded like a jet engine, and so I cleaned it out, and it was still acting loud. Looked it up, and all the advice just pretty much pointed to might just be time to get a new PlayStation. So I did, and now the new PlayStation is doing the same thing.
Huh, that's
Sort of
interesting.
out PlayStation.
Is that under warranty? Because I would I noticed it was hard to do that right now, but I would get it back immediately.
I bought it off someone 2 years ago, and
Shit.
they bought it for. I don't think I got all the. I didn't buy it from a shop. I bought it off someone who bought it for their nephew, and the nephew's like, "I don't want it."
First of all, that kid's a dick.
Yeah,
If I may.
I don't know the person. I don't know the child. So, yeah, could be.
No, just off of the idea of not wanting PS4. Just bought as a gift. I I noticed that on my brother's one because we'd be in his room hanging out, and all of a sudden you just hear this like jet turbine noise, and I said, "There's nothing you can do to fix that. I mean, unless you want to go in and buy the fan that they use and replace the fan, and maybe it might work." But at a certain point, it is just like loose fan.
The official guidelines that they give you on the PlayStation on Sony is that you can crack it open. You will void your warranty for doing this, which is fucking dumb. You can crack it open and give it a clean with compressed air, but that lasted maybe about a week when I did it on the new PlayStation.
Right.
And
Okay.
I just didn't think I don't want to have to give my PlayStation 4 a deep clean every time I want it to stop sounding like it's about to, drop fucking bombs at a B-52.
No, I
So
think
now, if I want to play the PlayStation 4 for long settings, I have to put my desk fan in front of the PlayStation to cool it down.
I was in the same situation as with my Xbox, and I just gave up and put it in the back corner. It's in the other room. I don't play it anymore. It is defunct, and I'm PC only. That actually was the thing that got me to switch over to PC only. Was knowing.
Oh, so you're officially no Xbox?
Yeah, I've been no Xbox for a while now, and it was just because I had overheating issues. I had everything well ventilated. Everything was all right. It should have worked fine, but I actually opened it up, and there wasn't that much dust build-up in there. Like, I've opened it up, and obviously the warranty's void now. But also, it's like a 5 or 6 year old console at that point anyway, so who cares?
You're on the original Xbox One as well, aren't you?
Yeah, and I was gonna get the S model, which is the slimmer down version. It's the version they make once they've got all the tech sorted out, and they basically make a version 2 of the original design, and then they announced, I can't remember what it's called, the Xbox. It's such a stupid naming convention. Xbox.
The Series X.
Yeah, Xbox One X or whatever it is.
Is that the 4K one you're talking about?
Yeah, it's the answer to the PS4 Pro, which.
Yeah, that's the Xbox Series. No, that's the Xbox One X.
Yeah, Xbox One X. And then once I was looking at that saying, it's not really worth it, because as soon as I was looking at that, they announced that the Project Scarlet was on the way, which was the next big major Xbox release, which is the one we're looking forward to at the end of the year, I think it is. I think we're at the end of the year for that.
Yeah, I think PlayStation 5 is looking at the 19th of November. So I can imagine Xbox will probably be the 12th of November.
Yeah, they'll probably try and get that out there just to get in the Christmas market. So once that started releasing, once that was kind of on the horizon, I was like,
wait.
I don't know if I want one. That's the thing for me, is that there's so much cross compatibility between Xbox and PC nowadays. I don't even really have that much reason to buy an Xbox, but I can just go buy my Steam back catalog and plug an Xbox controller into my PC. Because that was my main reason for using it, was the community, which I get through the Microsoft app, and then the Elite controller, which I can just plug into a PC. And just kind of hope that the controller compatibility works, you know?
Yeah, and with Game Pass, having an Xbox plugged in all the time is not really a big priority.
Yeah, might as well just have the PC there.
I mean, I'll probably pick up the Series X and PS5 when it comes out, because why break a habit of a lifetime? Why, keep money?
That sounds like something that belongs on junkies' tombstones.
Yeah.
Why break the habit of a lifetime when you can just be high as shit?
Yeah. I just have all the consoles and no money.
All the consoles, none the money, none the worries.
Yeah, fuck it. I really want to play that GTA 5 and PS5, baby. Fucking dumbest way to open a show. Here's a game that everyone has.
Someone pointed out that GTA 5 versus Skyrim is getting kind of absurd. Like, the length of release time is... Like, they're almost neck and neck. Because of...
I wasn't even aware that was a thing, with GTA 5 against Skyrim.
Just the sheer number of console releases for Skyrim and GTA 5. Like, it's more about the longevity than console releases, because Skyrim has been ported to everything.
Yeah, even toasters.
Someone has it on a toaster. I guarantee you, someone somewhere has Skyrim playing on a toaster. But
Probably.
they the actual GTA 5 like Monopoly, like they have such a good game. I love that game as it is, and then you throw in an online that's quite engaging. It's kind of fucked now for me, because I stepped back from it a while back, and then all of a sudden it's I'm way behind the meta, so I'm fucked. I haven't been keeping up to date with the content releases, but it prints money for 2K.
Yeah. 2K, Rockstar.
Rockstar 2K, it's the same company, really. They're owned by the same parent company.
I did not know that.
Yeah, which actually is funny, because 2K released their NBA 2K21, which is next year's release, and they had the Kobe tribute for the Black Mamba, or the Mamba Forever version, and that is, I think that's the maximum, like that's the maxed out version, that's the special edition collector's edition. The artwork for it's really good, but the standard edition of NBA 2K21 is going to run you $70 as opposed to the traditional $60, which is interesting, because I think they might be one of the first ones to break that line, and it doesn't surprise me, because 2K love a bit of cash. So yeah, I'll be very interested to see what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, because saying 2K are in it for the money kind of makes sense, considering the fact that Borderlands 2 is quite literally playable on everything now. You can get Borderlands 2 on the Switch, Borderlands 2 on PC, Xbox, PS3.
Borderlands
PS4.
is good though. That's the problem, is that although Borderlands 3, where is that game? Who's playing that right now?
Me.
Right, because I've been looking at it. I was playing Borderlands 2, or it might be 1 or 2 that I was playing just to kind of get back into it for the release of Borderlands 3, and it came out and then nothing. Literally nothing.
I think the reason why you're not hearing much about Borderlands 3 is because Last of Us came out, and the people that would usually be playing Borderlands are now playing Last of Us.
This is like months before that though. Like, it's been out for several months and we haven't heard anything about it. I think other games came along and took the wind out of its sails. There was one from a former developer of theirs. I tried playing it for like 20 minutes. I could not stomach it. But it was a very, very similar game that I was just not interested in. Other Worlds, I think it was.
Outer Worlds.
Outer Worlds, there it is. I tried playing that for 50 minutes. And just one thing about like RPG development that I've noticed. RPGs tend to have this thing where part of what you can improve over time is movement. And the way they do that is to have a really shitty movement system when you first start. Has that ever taken you out of a game? Because it did it with Outer Worlds, and I'm playing No Man's Sky, and I'm in the same boat of, I like this game, but the way I move, because I'm at such a low level, really pisses me off.
I can't really say I played a game where the movement hampered my gameplay, but off the top of my head, I'd probably have to say there was a game that came out for Switch, PS4, and Xbox One called Starlink Battle for Atlas,
Right.
and it hit Switch in a big way because of Star Fox tie-in, and the movement in that game was very No Man's Sky-ish. And I expected at some point you'd be able to land, get out of the ship, and wander around and gather minerals, fight some aliens, that kind of shit. But you don't leave the ship at all. You go to space, you land on the planet, you just kind of go into skim mode, then traverse the planet.
Because with, I mean, this is something I pick up in survival games, is that if there's an RPG element, your movement to begin with is very bad. Like 7 Days to Die, which actually just released Alpha 19, so I'll be dicking around with that for a little bit. I was playing that quite a lot, and I noticed that when you start, when your movement, you're just so slow, you've got no stamina bar, your jump's quite weak, just because, and I think it's just because when you're playing these games, it's an upgrade path. You can spend experience points to get a better jump, to have a bigger stamina bar, to move faster. They hamper the initial player character so that there's a path of development later on, which is kind of okay if you're Joe Blogs who happen to survive in the zombie apocalypse and they're on their own with like 7 Days to Die. But then you have something like No Man's Sky where I'm an astronaut. I am essentially entrusted with a spaceship capable of interdimensional travel. I would want to make sure that someone I gave a spaceship to could run more than 100 yards without losing their breath.
Yeah.
That kind of, it draws me out of a game in a weird way, and I don't know when that became just the standard way of doing things, but I got kind of really annoyed. I was sitting there playing it going, fuck this game. Like, genuinely fuck this game, because I'm playing what should be an astronaut, an explorer, someone who's out in the rough voids of space, but someone who also can't run 50 yards without having to stop for their inhaler. That's not real. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if it hampers your realism, yeah.
Yeah.
Or hampers your immersion, I suppose. But now that I think about it, the only game that really stopped me doing that was this is going to sound dumb, but probably The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, because you had to upgrade your stamina through stamina wheels, and I kind of thought you're meant to be this hardened battle soldier.
Yeah.
This hardened battle ready soldier. Battle soldier, that made no fucking sense. But all of a sudden you can't run more than 10, 20 feet without getting knackered.
But yeah, I mean, maybe it makes sense. I mean, maybe it makes sense in the idea that your ultimate form is so ultimate, it takes context of being really mediocre. But at the same time, like, I feel like you should start a little further up the pole so that you can degrade down if needs be, but then continue to rise up to higher levels. The idea that the legendary warrior can like never stop swinging for like half an hour and keep going and keep fighting, that makes sense. But the idea that the basic guy out on an adventure takes 3 swings of an axe, like, I don't know if you've got much experience swinging axes and hammers around the place, but they're not that heavy, realistically.
I think everyone at some point has done, or who's done sports training, has had to do that dumb exercise where you hit the sledgehammer off the tire and you have to, control it and swing the head over or swing it over your head again.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can do more than 3 without draining your stamina bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just always found that very annoying in gameplay design.
I mean, for me, it's more what takes me out of a game is if the combat is so boring and one-dimensional that it's literally just you do the same attack over and over again. With games like Devil May Cry, you'll hit a square 3 times and you'll do a cool 3-hit combo, and it looks different with each hit. I remember playing games on the Wii, and it's literally you do the same attack. You do down, up, down, up, down, up. This game's just boring as shit. I don't want to play a game with this boring a combat system.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to talk about Tiptoes for a bit, because we talked about this before, and I warned you.
Yeah.
This was going to be a bad movie. The only thing is, I was expecting so bad it's good quality, and
It's just so bad.
Yeah, I was really, in a way, I was disappointed at the lack of the fact of it being completely trash. I was hoping it'd be just a nightmare to watch, but it's just bad in a very pedestrian way. And it's, I mean, I saw this. I watched the Your Movie Sucks on it, which is like a YouTube channel that does a lot of really good, very snarky video reviews. I was like, this seems like a trash fire. Let me grab it. DVD was like £2, so why not? And then like I start looking into this movie, and it seems like it's going to be hilariously bad. And like this is the type of thing I'm looking for the movie nights, because it has bad reviews. It has weird like very targeted commentary about it, and then like it's just I'm just annoyed by the entire thing. Like the cast is Gary Oldman and Matthew McConaughey. They are both Oscar-winning actors for being the lead actor in movies, and they win their Oscars within 10 years of making the movie. And, you know, there's Kate Beckinsale, always a fan. She's there, she's trying.
She's trying to best. God love her.
Like, part of the issue with the film is, like, the casting, which is weird, because it's such a, like, star-studded cast. You got Peter Dinklage, but for some reason he's acting French and screaming about Marxism. Kate Beckinsale seems really vacant for some reason, like she's just not mentally there.
She's dead behind the eyes.
She's trying to pass herself off as like a caring mother to a child with a disability, and like it just doesn't work at all. And then, you know, Patricia Arquette, like, why is she there at all? Just get her the fuck out of the movie. You have a much better movie initially. And actually, talking about casting, I was looking at the cast list on IMDb. One of the dwarfs in there, who is quite prominent, is a woman called Bridget Powers, aka Bridget the Midget, the porn star.
That Bridget.
Yes. And I just found out as well, when you Google her name, she is currently going through court proceedings or legal proceedings because she stabbed her boyfriend in the leg in 2019 after she found him in bed with another woman. So there's a fun little thing you can Google if you're interested.
If you're bored.
If you're like, I wonder which dwarf actress is in jail in Las Vegas right now, it's her. It's Bridget the Midget. But like, all the problems I actually have with the movie as a movie are because of the edit. I mean, the film was supposed to be like 150 minutes, and Dinklage called it beautiful. Like, he said he's seen that cut, and it's like, this means something. It's good. It tells like truth about being a dwarf, and I can see like there's the tiny bits and pieces that if you had an extra 60 minutes for the film, it would work. But the producers of the film fired the director, and by the way, this is the last film he ever worked on. Like, he's just gone. And this was made in 2004. And then they just hired someone to re-edit it down to 90 minutes so it could be like a rom-com about dwarfism. And
a rom-com about dwarfism.
Yeah. And the worst thing is,
never thought I'd hear.
It's not a good rom-com. Like, there's no comedy in it at all. And there's nothing intentionally funny about it. Like, there's some lines back and forth, but there's nothing you'd say is witty or really funny, other than, haha, it's funny that, you know, Bridget the Midget is having sex with an Eastern European security guard. That's funny somehow, I guess. And there's like large stretches of dialogue between Kate Beckinsale and Matthew McConaughey are basically domestic arguments you would call the police for. Like, they're just yelling and screaming at each other because the kid won't shut up. And like, McConaughey, when like the kid is born, puts his fist through a wooden door in hospital, and they just let them leave together as a family. Like, what? None of this makes any sense. Like, none of this is funny. It's all very kind of worrying in a way. Like, there's just something about their relationship as a family that eventually Kate Beckinsale just leaves and leaves Matthew McConaughey alone in LA as a firefighter, and he's just gonna have to deal with his issues around being part of the dwarf community.
I was kind of hoping you said she just left the movie. She just went, fuck this.
She's like, fuck this shit, I'm out, and just left in a trash can. It would make sense if someone just walked off mid shot and they just had no one. They didn't replace them. They just kind of used the back of like the stand-in's head to explain what was going on, and they just shoot her off screen or something like that. Like that would make a lot more sense than the rest of the movie. But she just kind of leaves him. She leaves Matthew McConaughey after he yells the phrase, "I'm a dwarf," which is hilarious. It's like, no, you're an Adonis. You are about as good as the male body gets. What are you fucking talking about? And she just kind of leaves him for his brother. Like, there's nothing fun or funny about this film except Gary Oldman. Because if you watch the trailer for it,
Gary Oldman to be the comic relief.
He's not supposed to be. Because the trailer for this shows it as like, oh, Kate Beckinsale, Matthew McConaughey, and Peter Dinklage in the film Tiptoes. By the way, the phrase tiptoes is never involved. You never see any dwarves on their tiptoes trying to reach for something. The phrase tiptoes makes no sense as a title for this film. But the best part of it is watching Gary Oldman walking around the set of this movie on his knees, pretending he's a dwarf next to Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, I forgot you told me that. He's a midget. He plays a midget. Fuck.
People...
You told me.
Like, we're talking about the fact, like, off mic, we're talking about the fact that there's a lot of old UK media that's getting, like, kind of reassessed based on the current political climate, and it's being, like, censored or changed or just pulled. When they get to this movie, someone's going to have a fucking seizure seeing Gary Oldman, like, hobble around on his knees. Because they do not, like, they green screen out him, like, the back of his legs, so you can't tell it's just, like, his calves, like, he's walking around on his knees all day. But there is nothing they do to explain why his character is like that, beyond the fact that he has some weird bone growths, and that things aren't as they should be for a normal dwarf body. And, like, I've seen one quote from someone who's involved in the film saying, it's basically midget blackface. Like, whoa.
It's a tough one to back up.
It's interesting because the trailer for it is Gary Oldman in the role of a lifetime. Like, that's how they introduce him in the trailer for this fucking movie, and he's trying. Like, there's nothing that's funny in his character. He's not doing anything as a joke, but it's just weird to see what is quite obviously a full-grown man walking around on his knees, because they don't do anything to address the fact that he has full-sized arms. They're like, you just can't help but notice the fact that the only way they make his arms look normal, and the fact that his hands are fucking massive compared to the rest of his body, if you believe the illusion that he's a dwarf, is that they just have him, like, take his elbow back a bit further, but you can see it in almost every shot. There's very little that's done to mask him. Like, you know the way they did, like, for The Lord of the Rings, there was a lot of forced perspective shots.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah, they did a lot of that, but this is not that type of movie. Like, the guy who made this is not that good a director. So it's just a lot of, like, at one point, they have, like, the family over for dinner. They have Kate Beckinsale's family over with Matthew McConaughey's all-dwarf family over for dinner. And it is literally Gary Oldman. You just can't see him from, like, the neck down because he's behind a bar. Like, he's making drinks as a dwarf by just having his head above the bar and be like, hey, anyone need a top up? That's it. It's one of the most hysterical things I've ever seen, and it wasn't supposed to be funny. You're just laughing at Gary Oldman for some reason. And, like,
at some point during the making of that film, there's a blooper where Gary Oldman just stands up.
He stands up with shoes taped to his knees. And just walks off set being like, fuck it, I'll be in my trailer. But the cut, like the fact they've taken an hour worth of footage out of this makes so much sense. Like when you watch the film, like that scene I was talking about, when they have the family over for dinner, there is a build-up of tension that no one has, like, for some reason, no one tells anyone that there are dwarves involved in the storyline. So Matthew McConaughey doesn't tell Kate Beckinsale that his family are dwarfs, and she never tells her parents that the family are dwarfs. For some reason, no one passes it. All you have to do is say, look, I got this guy, I really like him, I want you to come over and meet his family because I think it's getting serious, I want to marry him, and oh, by the way, no one has that. Just, there'll be a lot of low ceilings. Any kind of hints, there's nothing about that at all. So there's a lot of people walking into rooms, seeing a room full of dwarves and be like, okay, like, I'm going to, like, it's the panicked face of someone pretending everything is normal. There's a lot of that going on, and it's really fucking funny to watch people being like, okay, there's a room full of dwarves, and I'm totally okay with all of this. It's just...
At any point, do they start making short jokes like, hey, come on, man, that's low, you can't say that. Well, the short end of the stick is, dude, you're acting really small right now. You're so small. Just dumb shitty joke like that.
Anyone get changed? I'm a little short, There's nothing like that. There's not a single thing in there as a joke that would make sense as a rom-com title. And there's one build of tension at that dinner where Kate Beckinsale's mum is like, we need to address something right now. We have an issue about this wedding, and we're not sure how you're going to react to our statement about it. And you're like, oh my god, they're going to bring up the dwarf thing, and it's going to be a fucking blowout, and there's going to be an argument. No, it turns out that Kate Beckinsale's grandfather is Jewish, like old school Orthodox Jewish, and wants them to have an Orthodox Jew wedding. That's it. But I missed this because the editing is so bad. Like, they're trying to rip every second they can out of the film to make it to that 90 minutes. They sat down for dinner. I got up to get a new drink. I went, poured my drink, came back, sat down, and they just had a Jewish wedding. Like, Matthew McConaughey steps on the glass, and I'm like, how long was I gone? I like rewind back through the film footage, and I'm like, something's not right here. I've missed something. No, they literally have the whole thing of like the dialogue about having a Jewish wedding to appease the grandfather, them agreeing to it because they thought it was going to be the dwarf thing coming up as an issue, then just a straight hard cut from them having dinner to 7 months in the future when they're just having the wedding in a field somewhere. He stamps on the glass, Mazel Tov, everyone just has a fucking party because wedding, and then they all get into cars. I'd missed all of that because all of that happens in about 30 seconds. It's just a weirdly, like, they've just ripped every second they can out of this movie. It's insane. It's clearly when they say the director had a vision, he made his vision into a movie, and then someone else came on and went, nah, fuck it, and just started ripping pieces out of it. It makes a lot more sense. But
so I hope you aren't offended by this, but I'm probably going to give it a miss. I'm not going to watch it. You've not made it sound good at all.
That's the thing, is like, I'd love to say, you gotta see this. It's such a fucking shit show. But it's just bad. It doesn't deal with anything in any nuanced way. It's just someone trying to force a movie out of what seems like 3 or 4 different ideas at the same time. It's a nightmare. I was so disappointed about it because I've been talking about this to a number of people, both you, family and friends, and just being like, this may be the worst movie I ever watched, but in a way that's fun. And it was just a horrific disappointment. Like, this DVD is going to go around about 3 or 4 people before it's available again, that I know of anyway. And then it's just going to be a bunch of people being like, this was just disappointing. I'm just going to have to fucking own it. It's weird. I don't know how to feel. I feel let down, disappointed. That's the main reason I wanted to bring it on, was say, I have seen Tiptoes now, finally, and I am just deeply disappointed. Oh well.
This is a new film?
This is what?
Is this a new film? 2020?
No, 2004. You could not make this now. Could you imagine? Gary Oldman does midget face, I guess. That's what we're going to call it. Do we have the balls to make that the episode title?
I don't think so. Gary Oldman does midget face. That sounds... No.
Nah, we're gonna leave that one off the list.
Oh, other avenue.
No, but this was 2004. It was an older time. I mean, it's there if you. I noticed consistency issues. I noticed consistency issues with two main subjects. One, volume in liquor cups. There's it's the hardest thing to manage between different shots. Is that if there's visible fluid in someone's cup in movies, if it's a well-made movie, it will stay consistent between different shots. If it's a bad movie, you'll see the level go up and down randomly. Just look at people's cups if you can see the fluid inside. Water, wine, anything. Just because actors are doing so many takes, they're taking so many sips between takes, and just there's always like a change in the level. At one point, Dinklage's cup goes from 3/4 full to like 1/10 full to 2/3 full within the space of 30 seconds. I fucking lost it. And then for some reason,
I mean, the actors are probably just trying to keep themselves buzzed to get through this fucking movie. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, especially when again Peter Dinklage, a great actor who happens to be a dwarf, is for some reason yelling in French at other dwarfs. Like he's yelling in a French accent at other dwarves about the fact that the only power available to people is the barrel of a gun, as in he wants dwarf revolution. I have no fucking words for that film. It makes no sense whatsoever. But the other thing I noticed inconsistency.
Revolution. Okay, I'm not even going to ask you to clarify that. Just move on.
Just dwarf
Please.
revolution. But the other thing I noticed inconsistencies in is Kate Beckinsale's panties. There is, for some reason, a scene where she has been painting, just kind of casually hanging out at her flat, and you can see like the bottom layer of her like the trousers, and then she's got like underwear on, and you can see the underwear above the level of the trousers. She has a dialogue with Gary Oldman where Gary Oldman reveals that he's Matthew McConaughey's brother, and they talk about that for like 30 seconds. She then goes to visit Matthew McConaughey at a training seminar. It's sorted so that her trousers are above the panties. Then she comes back to have another dialogue with Gary Oldman, and you can see her panties again. Did she pull her pants up to go speak to her fiance, and then kind of lower them back down again to speak to her brother-in-law to be, I guess? I just have so many questions about the film itself, and I have no idea what to do. No one will answer these questions.
I don't think anyone has an answer for these questions.
I don't think God has an answer anymore.
No, I don't think he does.
So yeah, that was I had to after walking away from that movie, I had to watch Heavy Metal, which we talked about a little bit. Heavy Metal's a bit nuts. It's a real it is a trip in the most classical sense of the word. But I will say I actually enjoyed the South Park parody a lot more in the episode Major Boobage. It is just the high points of heavy metal. But in a weird way, there's a lot of sex in heavy metal that is just weird and gratuitous. But when you see it through South Park, the fact that it's through Kenny's mind makes a lot more sense, because Kenny's always been obsessed with tits. So the fact that everything is about sexy ladies and tits makes more sense than the actual movie itself, which is a weird thing to say, but it's not wrong, I guarantee. But I also watched Shin Godzilla that night, so that was interesting.
Oh, Shin Godzilla's a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal movie.
I think we need to talk about that properly, because I really enjoyed it as a film, but I don't know how to. I want to watch it again with the dub, because I've got the dub as well. Because the dub is done.
I've only ever watched it with the dub, and it was fucking outstanding.
The dub is Funimation, which is interesting, because it's actually available on Funimation streaming service. So yeah, I have the Blu-ray for it, so I have a spare disc that also features the dub, which is weird, but I've just never had that come as part of a package before. That's never been an option for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never had that before as a spare DVD or spare Blu-ray disc. But I'll be watching it because I always enjoy playing the Funimation game where you have different actors and stuff. You just try and pair all their roles to the current character they're playing. So, like, Chris Sabat being the military leader, I'm like, that makes sense. He's the guy in charge.
Yeah, then you'll hear Ian Sinclair be one of the members of the task force.
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
What's his name? Todd Habercorn's in there as well. He plays the main character.
Yeah, I saw that one as well. I was like, he's one of the few voices I immediately, like, it's Chris Sabat and Todd Habercorn. I immediately just jumped straight to, like, I know that guy. I know his back catalogue of roles. So it's quite interesting. But I also watched Spotlight on Netflix, which is pretty good. I think you'd like it. Michael Keaton and Mark Ruffalo, so Batman and the Hulk, as
Nice.
Boston Globe reporters investigating paedophiles in the Catholic Church. Okay, that part you might not enjoy so much, but it's very good. It's very, like, I heard it was Oscar winning, and I'm like, how does that win an Oscar? And you get 20 minutes in, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I see why now.
It sounds like when you've got those two people in the same room, it's just going to be a powerhouse.
Well, the acting's great, but like everything about like the camera work as well is just fantastic. Like everything you could direct about a movie is just top caliber in that film. It's very good. What's been on your watch list recently?
Fuck. I like I said at the start, I've been watching Cowboy Bebop on Blu-ray, which is just another one of those shows that if I'm ever looking for something to watch, I will just pop it in. Now I don't really need to be in a specific mood to watch Cowboy Bebop. It's just one of those shows that I'll find something to like about it, or find something that I want to see in it. But I finished watching Batman the animated series, and I think that's the first time I've ever watched it from the start to the finish, because the Batman the animated series started when I was barely on this earth. 1991 it started.
Yeah.
So Batman is Kevin Conroy has been voicing Batman for as long as I've been alive, almost. In fact, not almost, exactly.
That is scary.
Yeah, and still going strong, man. And still going strong.
Well, how about we segue to our showstopper? As I tell you about the one Batman thing you've probably not watched.
Tiptoes wasn't the showstopper?
No, it gets so much worse, my friend.
Oh, fuck. Well, let's do this.
Right, grab your drinks, people. It's time for the showstopper.
Shit. I'll have a drink.
Do you want to go make one?
Nah, I'm good. Let's do it.
All right. Okay, you may regret that. We're going to talk about Bat Pussy. Yes, it is exactly what it sounds like. So I was looking through the list of the worst films ever made, because Tiptoes actually made that list as part of the 2000s entry. But deep in the 1970s category, there is a film called Bat Pussy. Bat Pussy is an American pornographic film, believed to be produced somewhere around the 1970s. I'll explain that in a minute. As a spoof of the Adam West Batman TV series. And it is cited as one of the worst pornographic films ever made, to the point where it is one of the worst films ever made. I'm not joking, it is a Batman parody of the Adam West series as a porn parody. I cannot... I've struggled to watch, there are no clips of this that I could find. I could see some stills. You don't want to see the stills. But it was released in the 70s and forgotten about, and then rediscovered in the storeroom of a Memphis, Tennessee adult movie theatre somewhere in the mid-90s, and then issued to home film by a film distributor called Something Weird Video, who specialise in exploitation and pornographic materials. The company at the time bought the entire box that Bat Pussy was found in for about $1,000, considering the tapes inside where there was like a couple hundred. So they just bought a box of porn for $1,000 and somehow found this monument to 60s era Batman. So this film is so bad, it has been dubbed The Room of Porn, as in Tommy Wiseau's The Room of Pornography. So the issue with this is that no one actually knows the cast of this film. No one wants to admit to being involved in the production of this film. There is just no information about Bat Pussy that is not immediately available on the tapes themselves. It was made at some point in the 70s, people don't even know where it was filmed because it's filmed in such a generic, like, middle of nowhere Americana like place that they can't actually track down anyone involved. They
That's
have
good. You threw them into the fucking ground.
Yeah, it basically seems like this was made as like a cash grab. It didn't work, and then people just threw it to the side. So like it's been criticized for just being a bad film, very low budget, which makes sense. It's a porn film. It's a porn parody in the 1970s. Wasn't supposed to be like, a blockbuster. It apparently has just weird dialogue, but the best part is, part of the criticism of the film, of a porn film, is sexual ineptitude and physical unattractiveness of the lead actors. So the main characters are Buddy, Sam, and Dora Dildo, the alter persona of Bat Pussy, aka basically Batwoman, but the porn parody. So Buddy, the man, because this may take some explaining, is reading a magazine and decides to try oral sex on Sam, the girl in the relationship, and the two of them spend the remainder of the film having sex, alternating between him going down on her going down on him, fingering, and Buddy being flaccid the entire time. Apparently, the porn actor just couldn't get it up, and they just kept rolling the footage in the hope it would eventually happen, despite the fact it never does. Throughout the scenes, Buddy and Sam continue to insult and argue with each other over the sexual performance during the scenes. Meanwhile, Batgirl gets a sense, like a kind of spidey sense, that someone is trying to make pornography without her being involved. So she decides to switch over to her Bat Pussy persona, the Batgirl persona, and race across town, which she does. Apparently, by the way, this is set in Gotham, but there's never any like city. It's all shot against like empty empty like back streets and stuff. There's never any.
You at least have that level of authenticity in your parodies.
At least film it in some reasonably big city and shoot it like in like weird shady alleyways. Have her run through the street where Bruce Wayne gets his parents murdered. So
run through Crime Alley, see what happens.
So she senses that someone is trying to make porn without her being involved. So she runs across town, or I say runs. She goes to save the day, hopping on a space hopper. As in the little like weird yoga ball thing with the handles on it.
That children use.
She races to save the pornographic day on a space hopper.
The Batmobile would have been too far.
The Batmobile would have cost money.
Yeah.
Apparently, during the travels, like on her way to join the sex that is happening in another room, apparently, she stops a mugging by beating a man with a space hopper. It's so hilarious. Like, you couldn't write this as a joke now. The way that like the Room, or the Disaster Artist is written as a parody of The Room. You couldn't make this happen.
Disaster Artist is written as it's not as a parody of The Room. It's a book written by one of the guys who was in The Room.
Yeah, but then it gets turned into a parody movie. So
no, it's not a parody movie. It's just basically a tell-all movie.
Really, because I read that like Franco and that made it as a comedy.
Yeah, they made it as a comedy, but it's basically them telling the events of what happened in the book.
For comedic effect, yeah.
Yeah, for a comedic effect. I wouldn't realize it's a parody.
Meanwhile, Buddy and Sam are still going at it when Bat Pussy shows up. There's an argument, and immediately they just start having a threesome. And then, out of nowhere, like in the middle of like the threesome sex between Sam, Buddy, and Bat Pussy, Bat Pussy just decides to just leave, and at that point the film ends. Now that's because apparently there was a second copy, or there's a second set of film that was missing from the initial like stuff that was found, and in 2019 they have located new footage that explains the mystery of the Bat Pussy saga. Hopefully, including some credits.
It's not a story that needs to be told. Let's be honest.
But yeah, it's like I've went looking for like the criticisms of this, and everything is basically being torn apart by this movie because it's so bad. It made the rounds. So I say like it's a low budget porn parody. Apparently, at one point, you can hear the director giving direction to the actors that are involved in the scenes, and apparently, a crew member can be heard to audibly belch during one of the sex scenes.
So mid-scene, the director says, no, do it this way. He gives him a line reading or he gives him a direction.
And thought, okay, boss, gonna get to it. He starts shagging away, and all of a sudden, actually, I say shagging away. That's the wrong phrase, because apparently technically during this entire film, the guy never penetrates the woman throughout this because he's flaccid the entire time, so it's all just hand stuff. So they never actually have that scene. But so during all this happening, you have the director saying, no, like put your hand the other way. And then in the background, you just hear some guy just belching away in the background.
Fucking hell.
And apparently during the last scene of dialogue between all the characters, Buddy frequently refers to Bat Pussy as Batwoman before being corrected on camera by another actor in the scene. So I like everything I could find about this film makes me kind of want to try and find it, but I also want to wait until the full version is remastered because they found
To try and find it just so it never sees the light of day. Just destroy it.
they found the tape. They
Zero ways to be the showstopper because I genuinely can't think anymore. This has destroyed my mental capacity for tonight.
This is definitely a showstopper, but like it's the idea. The idea is that they put out the original film on DVD when the DVDs were quite sketchy. They found they had the original 16mm like footage, so they went back and remastered it for Blu-ray, and now more 16mm footage has been made available somehow. Someone found the rest of a copy of this footage, so that we can now get the full uncut ending to Bat Pussy. Although Bat Pussy has been trashed, it is the first recognised porn parody of a pop culture like phenomenon like Batman, which means it is the first porn parody of a movie or a show, which means that you can owe every great porn parody you've ever seen to Bat Pussy. Which, by the way, if you're not aware, you can still find porn parodies being made of the current DC movies. And honestly, they're not much better than this.
I mean, don't feel the need to go and check them out, though, people.
Oh, it's so horrific.
Regular kind. Don't go looking for this weird, nasty shit.
Or do. Who knows? I don't know where I stand in this. I'm very tempted to go hunt this down because it sounds so horrific. It sounds so bad it can't be good. One of the comments I saw was that it should be used for like abstinence only safe sex programs because it makes sex so unappealing that no one would ever want to have it. No teenager is going to watch this and think, I really need to get laid right now.
I mean, people would just go, nope, if this is what sex is like, I ain't doing it.
Yeah. Can you imagine making a porn parody and the criticism is this should be used for abstinence-only education? That would be the meanest thing you could possibly say. What did you say there?
I bet the director's real happy about that.
If we can find them, this is why we need the full footage. We need to find the credits list because
you know what? I'm happy to let this one slide.
You're gonna let this one slide.
Yep.
So we'll let it slide into the next episode. In the meantime, I've been Colin Graham.
I've been Dom Anderson.
And we've been talking gibberfish. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, wear a mask, Black Lives Matter.
Simple, innit?